Welcome. This is Ralph Bivens with the Ralph Bivens Project. We're here today to talk about real estate, and we're in the summer and we're crazy hot. But people are still doing things, still buying things, still leasing. And we want to remind you to go to our website, realtynewsreport.com, which keeps up with a lot of the daily activity on a regional and national basis, and news there, and also subscribe to this podcast. Um, the Real Estate Ralph Bivens Project. It's on YouTube, Spotify, and we're getting a lot of new activity. So uh, thank, thanks to you guys for helping me with that. It's much appreciated. We're here today to talk with Chairman Colvill. You may recognize that name. It's one of the legacy names here in Texas real estate. Cameron's dad, Chip Colvill, is a founder of Colvill Office Properties, which was major firm that was recently acquired a couple of years ago by Cushman Wakefield. And Cameron is here, and he's uh, his son, and Cameron is with Whitebox Real Estate, which new to Houston, Dallas company, and so they're lucky to have Cameron. Cameron, welcome.
Yeah, thanks, Ralph. First of all, I just want to thank you for having me on this podcast. This is a great opportunity for me to get the Whitebox name out there, and uh, my dad has known you for many, many years, and you're considered a legend in the Houston real estate reporting space, and you've had your own company for several years, and I'm just excited to talk to a living legend. So it's an honor to hang out with you this morning.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you, my friend. The It's no secret, that the office market in Houston has been a little soft for the last couple of years, and some say it would be real soft. But uh, but then lately, I think we were talking earlier. It seemed like there's been some activity in the last month or so that seems like maybe 2 months. It seems like things are getting better. What's your take? You talk to a lot of people, Cameron. What's your take on where the mood of the people, the sentiment out there in the commercial real estate market, in the economy, local?
Yeah, the last 2 years have been extremely tough for all of us in this industry. Thankfully, we're all resilient folks, and we know how to, go through a tough market. My dad has been through, gosh, 5 or 6 tough markets, and I've seen him, work his tail off in a good market and in a bad market. So, really the sentiment is everyone's feeling better these days. We've seen, eight, eight of the previous quarters, we've seen negative absorption. And just recently, for the first time in 8 quarters, we've seen something positive happen, some positive absorption. So we're very pleased. And we think that we're right on the cusp of, everyone getting back to work. And, um, we've, the city, we're at about 94% of all lost jobs are, coming back. So that's great news. And, we're sitting at right around 26% vacancy. And, downtown's looking great. Really, you know, I, I'd say about 60 of all people are back in the office in downtown. And it's probably closer to 70, 80% of people are back in the office, in the suburban market. So, we're optimistic for the future. And, I think what we've seen, previously is a lot of these companies are just, doing short-term extensions, and they're just waiting for the bottom of the market. I think we've already seen the bottom of the market. I think what you'll see here, is a huge uptick in activity, as these companies come up for renewal because they just did a 1 or 2 year lease extension. So we should all be extremely busy, and you know the energy here at Whitebox is palpable. Certainly, Grant Pruitt's started this company about 6 years ago in Dallas, and he there's an energy about him that is infectious. He is he's this 6'5" guy. He's got so much energy. He's sharp. He's polished. He's got a great company in Dallas that's been in business for about 6 years. And in the Houston office here in town, we've been in business for about 8 or 9 months or so. And we've got a great group of guys and gals, ready to, hit the streets. But yeah, it's
Thanks for
good to, yeah, it's good to be here. And I'm very excited for the future for sure.
well, I think you Whitebox made a good hire when they took you. And I think it's interesting that this downtown 70, a couple of years ago, you'd go downtown and oh man, you feel sorry for the guys that own the deli and stuff like that, and then you just I don't know how they made it, and some of them didn't. It's really really tough, and to have that much repopulation is a good sign. When it feels
Yeah.
vacant, it just doesn't feel right. Just,
Yeah.
we used to
Good.
around downtown and in the tunnels and the sidewalks and everything, you get it, which it should feel populated. As time comes, there should be uh, a lot of people out and about. So just that whole the street energy has to be there to make it happen. And that's great. First positive absorption. Wow, that's that's
Yeah.
that's a good thing. When they're going, getting them emptier and getting your office buildings empty instead of filling, you feel like
Yeah.
not positive. That's going on the wrong road.
Yeah, I think what, the positive certainly on downtown is, downtown's not going anywhere. It's super easy, for these larger companies to have their employees get to. There's, public transportation. You've got the tunnel system. Um, you know, probably every landlord in the downtown area has spent millions and millions of dollars on their buildings. So a ton of buildings have been improved significantly, and that's just what we're seeing. Like, in order to get these people back to work, you have to spend money to make money, right? You have to make people want to come back to work. And I got to tell you, I did my training in Whitebox in Dallas last week. It's been my dream for years to work for a company that has cold brew on tap, and they had cold brew on tap. I felt like I was a character in that law firm show. I think it's on Hulu, called Suits. With like glass doors and everyone's names are on the glass sidewalls, and cool lettering. It's a great office up there, and yeah, you have to be excited, to come to work. And downtown certainly, they've spent a ton of money on all of those buildings, and they're making it better than ever. So I don't think we'll have any issues with downtown going forward. And if you look at the sublease vacancy in downtown compared to the rest of the city, downtown's only sitting at about a 3% sublease vacancy rate, which is better than the city
City
average.
7 or 8.
Um,
That's
yeah,
that's a
and
lot of stuff there. Yeah.
yeah, my former Cushman colleagues, they were lucky to announce that Texas Tower just signed Cheniere Energy for 152,000 square feet. So that's a big win for downtown.
That's huge. That building, brand new. It's over 1 million feet, and it's Heinz building on top of the former Houston Chronicle site where I did
Right.
hard there for many years. And but now there's a brand new Heinz building on there just opened, and I think they're up to 63% lease or something. But they're attracting the new tenants. The Cheniere thing that the Cushman guys did big thing to be reeling in. But just like you said, the amenities there, that a bar type of thing in the lobby, and another restaurant along Texas Avenue that empties into the building. These sky decks, the plazas out there, the open area. You can go, eat your lunch out on a little plaza, on a bench on the 18th floor or something. It's pretty cool. They just they really build those amenities in these days for the new building.
Right. Yeah, it's an excellent building. We took a tour of it, maybe a couple weeks before it even opened, and got to see all the amenities, and it was awesome. Yeah, I think that everyone when everyone started working from home, everyone got so used to being able to run out into their backyard and get some light. So these buildings, they've got to just brighten everything up and make outdoor spaces easily accessible and beneficial to the work life balance that we're all craving these days. Um,
You've been there before. We've uh, you know been used to going to the office. We see other people. Hey, let's just let's go do lunch, and things just happen. And you're there when you just have a small question. You don't have to like, hey, let's set up a Zoom call, and so I can ask you this one question or something. It's just more more natural and to have a place to work. But I understand people that get used to working at home. You can don't have to get dressed up. You can go run a little errand, get your oil change, whatever you have to do, and not really urgent productivity. Don't have to do the commute. Um, so the, the companies that have offices have to do things to get people to want to come to work, keep it productive. Having brew on tap like your new company does theirs, that's
mhm.
that's a cool thing.
Yeah, it's interesting because I don't understand if certain people work certain ways, and we're all humans, we're all individuals, and we all have our ticks. But I don't know if it's because I'm a real estate guy, but I love going into the office. It's tough to get stuff done at the house. So it's great to. I mean, we didn't at When I was back at Cushman, we weren't away from the office for too long. And then same with these Whitebox guys, they were all ready to get back. And there's certainly a different energy when you're in person, as opposed to working from home. So yeah, me personally, I'd much rather be in the office. And then what's interesting too about me, my wife is actually a recruiter. She works for one of the top recruiting agencies in the city, Murray Resources. So I'm constantly speaking with her and learning about different companies that are growing, what employees want these days. She's told me that a lot of employees are just demanding the flex work from home, uh, you know style. She personally gets to work from home a couple days a week, and she loves it. A lot of companies are kind of adapting to that methodology, and allowing their employees to work from home 1 or 2 days a week. So she's been a good resource for me as I try to navigate and educate my clients on how to get the best utilization of their office space. And that's what Whitebox does. We're tenant rep only. Similar situation to Colville office properties. I just think that when you focus on one thing and you do it better than anyone else, and that's what Whitebox does. We're a younger, more, I don't want to say boutique, but we are more nimble in our approach, and we can certainly help our clients in ways that can be very beneficial for them. And Whitebox, they're all about transaction management. So that's my role for the Houston office. Um, I'm solely focused on transaction management, and they want me just doing the deals and just getting them to the goal line and helping the clients. Just like focusing on one thing can really help a person stay on task. And I love that about Whitebox, certainly.
So there'll be deals being or leads being generated and things, and they kick this over to you. It's like they close it. Is that
Correct.
the right kind of concept we're talking about? Well,
Yeah,
good.
and I haven't even been at Whitebox a week, and they're already throwing me stuff, throwing me deals to work on. So it's great. Um,
Good. That's good. Yeah. Uh, just we mentioned a second ago the downtown 26% vacancy. I think there's some submarkets around town that are higher. It's there's some smaller submarkets in some certain areas are doing pretty good, and we've seen some new leasing right around Memorial City in there on the Katy Freeway. But overall, I still kind of think we're hadn't quite come out of the down cycle all the way. Which even though we've made some positive absorption and made some improvement the last quarter, when do you think we've bottomed out and now uh, we're ready to head out and get out of the down cycle?
as a former leasing guy, I always have to, try to put a positive spin on things. I think that we're heading in the right direction. I think that, with renewable energy, traditionally, Houston's a very resilient city. We're going to get through this. You know, you've got, the big major players, kind of shifting their business models to this renewable energy. And, Houston traditionally has been the energy capital of the world. I believe that we're going to be the renewable energy capital of the world. So, we just, there's a little bit of growing pains. We're still, I think COVID was tough on everybody. We're still trying to navigate this new world that we live in. But, the human race, like we're resilient. We're going to get through this, and we're going to figure out how office space can work for us. Because like there's a lot of product out there. There's a lot of new buildings that are getting filled up. We've always seen a flight to quality. Like if there's a building that we're going to go lease, we're going to go to the very best building. And certainly, I would think that um, in the years ahead, you'll see less new development, and all of those new developments will be the first to get leased, and then that'll certainly help us, get this vacancy rate down, and be heading in the right direction. So
We also seen some companies, Brookville, of course, spend heavily, on improving their properties and getting stuff built in the 80s and even late 70s. That really spending a lot to improve these projects and office buildings, making them competitive with the brand new towers that have the newness and the total amenity package and the bells and whistles. But what about those guys? I've wondered. I think, well, they spent so much to make this, Class A um, fully. When did they spend too much? That's kind of that thing. Did they spend too much? We'll find out someday, I guess. But
cer- certainly we will. You gotta spend money to make money. As a former leasing guy, we always try to we would always try to tell our clients, like, hey, a tenant coming into the building, you can tell them that we're going to renovate this lobby and this and that. And it's just difficult for someone that's not in the real estate business day in and day out. It's difficult for them to see the vision. Even though you can be the best salesman in the world, it's just tough to convince these tenants if they've got, a bunch of different buildings right down the street that have already done their improvements. What are they going to do? They're going to go and, pick the ones that are already complete. For example, I used to lease Westway 2 for Griffin Capital out of El Segundo, California. Great client. Thankfully, they pulled the trigger. They did their renovation. They spent about 1.4 million on an excellent renovation, and thankfully we were able to complete that right before COVID hit. And to no one's surprise, we crushed it at that building, and we signed 5-6 new tenants in that building in a year span. I think that we'll see a big there could still be a big migration to office closer to where employees live. I remember another building that I leased had this amazing graphic that just showed the Houston workforce population and it showed very clearly 75% of all Houston workforce was just kind of in this, north west quadrant of the city. And it's like, really, that's where everyone lives. Everyone lives out there. So it made sense that we were able to crush it with some new tenants coming into Westway 2.
Yeah, of course, that I think going back to what you said, city center, Midway name its big project City Center, which is kind of out west, like Katy
Right.
Freeway, Beltway 8. But they said, well, this is really the city center. Downtown, people live out there. Downtown's kind of not in the center of things like as much as it used to be. It has all the big buildings, has the transportation hubs and everything. But still, look at where people live, make a dot on the map. It's going to be out there. I-10 and Beltway 8, Katy Freeway and Beltway 8.
Yeah, and I know that Metro National is doing a bunch for Memorial City. I think that that whole area is going to just boom. My wife she's lucky enough to get to office at 800 Gessner. That's a great area of the city, certainly, and Metro National is going to be doing a bunch to improve that area. I think they're improving the mall. They're bringing in a bunch of new retail. If I could,
they tore down the old Sears. That
right.
How many cities can you say that? There's a bunch of dead Sears that are going down, but they tore down the old Sears there at Memorial City, and that's going to be something great. We had the guy from Gensler Architecture on this podcast, Jerry Alexander, a couple of weeks ago, and he's working on that deal. Memorial City's Metro National spending heavy, they're building heavy, and man, they've got some significant leasing activity happening all around that Bunker Hill, Gessner, and in between. It's pretty strong. And they're building a new residential tower at a big one there, right. That intersection, Kinney or something like that. It's a big one.
Yes, sir.
Anything else, I think unusual or something that you've been noticing or thinking about, or noticing as you go about your job, a new trend that may emerge or whatever?
No, I think I'd like to leave you with, just a discussion on, how excited I am to be at Whitebox. Real estate's in my blood. Obviously, my dad is a real estate titan within Houston. He, started at Cushman, what was it, 35 years ago. Made his own company, Colvill Office Properties, and, grew it to an amazing success. I feel like real estate's in my blood. I remember growing up as a kid, living in Afton Oaks, looking up and looking at Williams Tower with the light, kind of spinning around. And, Houston is just an exciting city. It's one of the greatest cities in the world. It's great to be kind of on the demand side of things, and being with a Whitebox, I feel like since real estate is in my blood, I'm going to certainly look at this as a entrepreneurial type of thing. Obviously, I know that this is Grant Pruitt's company, and he's got an amazing operation in Dallas, and he hired an amazing guy that I met years ago with Fritchie Anderson, Andrew Brode, who's running things for us down in Houston, and he is awesome. And I'm looking at this kind of like as an entrepreneurial, like I want to just help Grant and Andrew grow this business and kind of make this my own. And I just couldn't be more excited for this opportunity that I've been blessed to be given.
You know, White Box is focusing on dealing with tenants, right? You deal with tenant companies that want to occupy space, and like Colvill office properties, which was most represented buildings. Is that
Yes, sir.
where
Yes, sir. And I feel very blessed to have been, on both sides of the business, both in Dallas and in Houston, because I got my start in real estate at Swearingen Realty Group up in Dallas,
really?
doing the tenant rep thing. And then that's when my dad got the Heinz account. That's when I made my transition over to leasing. And I leased, a 1 million square foot building with Blaine Hale, former CBRE employee, in downtown Dallas. And I mean, that was awesome. And I learned a ton from him and from Heinz, working up in Dallas. And then my wife and I moved down to Houston, same thing, worked for Colvill / Cushman for 7 years, and, got to learn the leasing side of the business in Houston. And now I'm back in tenant rep. So I've kind of come full circle. So it feels good to be back.
Yeah, I mean that it does. You're coming in at a good time, and things are picking up some, and this is really cool. I've I've noticed I mentioned this in an article that we posted on realtynewsreport.com recently, and these office in Heinz is doing a conversion of this old office stock office buildings, conversion of old office buildings into multifamily. Um, and it's happened some. It's in there seems to be a lot of that on the drawing boards and announced even in downtown Dallas. And Heinz is doing their first one out in Salt Lake City. And so I've been a lot of people. It's happening in New York. It's happening everywhere. And but just a lot more of that. People are looking at these buildings and saying, this in today's market, this may be obsolete product, but maybe it's time to. There's surely a need for residential. It's hard to find apartments. It's hard to get affordable apartments. So we're seeing a lot more of that happening. I think there's some under consideration here in Houston. I'm looking for that trend too, and it would get some of the inventory off the market too.
Right. Yeah. Hopefully that's a trend that we continue to see. Um, I was lucky enough to go visit with my sister's boyfriend in Dallas. Same thing. He lives in this really cool building that used to be an office building in downtown Dallas that got transitioned into a high rise condominium. And it was cool. It's where the Monarch is, which I guess is like rated the #1 restaurant in Dallas, and it was cool. It was like up on the 50th floor. So I hope we continue to see stuff like that, like Chase Tower downtown Dallas. They had the Petroleum Club on, like, I think it was the 40th floor. With a great restaurant and great views of the city, and that I hope we continue to see more buildings adopt that.
It's cool. Yeah, like
Certainly.
one in Dallas that was done In terms of the Magnolia Hotel, it was my mobile oil, but they have the big red flying horse is the sign is still on the roof. It's lit up. It's very cool. But now that's the hotel. But it's kind of historic. They retain the good architecture, and it's pretty cool. So I
Right.
just that's one of my hopeful things about you say how are we ever going to knock down this you know 12 million feet of even out in the burbs, out there on San Felipe at Augusta and along in there they're tearing down stuff, and this is now a northern Galleria area is now kind of it's gone residential. And people want to live there. They want to have a residential tower. So I think we're going to see some buildings being demolished and office buildings being demolished, replaced by high-rise residential of one sort or another. All right,
Certainly.
Cameron, thank you very much for taking time to talk with us, and keep in touch and let us know how things are going out at Whitebox, and we'll talk again soon. Okay.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Ralph. It's great to talk to you today. You're a legend. Have a great day.